Today we're going back to basics with a pencil natural form drawing. I'll be using a HB, 2B and 6B pencil, but you don't need all of those if you don't have them available. So to start off, I'm using my lightest pencil, the HB, just to draw the outline of the apple. I'm making sure that I'm looking up at the object I'm drawing and continually down at my paper for reference of the size and shape. If you don't have a HB pencil, make sure you're holding it at least halfway up the pencil and pressing nice and lightly so that those lines don't become too dark. Next, we're going to add in our highlight areas, just lightly drawing around those shapes so you know where they'll go in the future. I'm switching to my 2B pencil to sketch in those darker shapes that I can see, so near the bottom of the apple and around the edge. Again, if you don't have access to a 2B, you're going to want to use a hard pressure or a darker pencil for this, so the higher the number in front of the B, the darker the pencil will appear. Using that same 2B pencil, I'm going to start shading in the darker areas. To do this, I'm using small circular motions, which allow me then to layer the tone and it'll all blend really nicely. When your darkest tone is created, you're going to want to start laying down your mid-tone, so I'm using the same pencil and just filling in those inside areas, again using that same circular motion. You'll also see that I'm holding my pencil higher up, so that it creates a lighter tone on the paper using less pressure. And I'm also making sure that I move my pencil directionally, going with the shapes of the curve in the apple. Going back to my HB pencil, I'm just starting to create a gradient on the inside of the highlighted areas. So I want those to blend really carefully with the mid-tone there. So just lightly circling around the edge of the shapes that I've already created. So on the top part of the apple, there are clear lines of tone in the image that I can see. So I'm just replicating that with my pencil now, going in nice and dark with the 2B to start with. So next I'm going to be going in with my 6B, so my darkest pencil, just to go over those dark areas. So I want to make a contrast between the highlights and the shadows that I can see. If you don't have a 6B, just press harder, so more pressure with the pencil that you are using. Now that this contrast is so much darker, I'm going to go back in with my 2B and just make sure there's a clear gradient there, also going around some of those lighter highlights to make them stand out a bit further. Now, similarly to what I've done with the darker tones, I'm going to use that HB pencil again, pressing really lightly to create a gradient into the centre of each highlight. At this point, I'm looking back at the picture of the apple and checking that there are no discrepancies between my drawing and the image that I can see. I've noticed that underneath that highlight there is a clear contrast which is much darker than what I've portrayed, so I'm just going back into that shape now to develop this. Looking at the stem now, I'm going to use a hard pressure at the bottom of the stem where it's closest to the centre of the apple and along that top edge, just showing the rough texture there, and then I'm filling it in with a slightly lighter tone. Now that I'm happy, I'm going to start working into the small leaf at the top. Using my 2B pencil again, I'm just looking at where those veins are through the centre, and I'm going to leave those the same colour as the paper and work into all the other sections using the pencil. So I'm creating small rectangular shapes and leaving gaps in between each one, and that will create that lighter vein going through the centre of the leaf. I've then applied more pressure along that top line and through the centre to make it look like the leaf is bowing. And to create that final 3D effect, I'm using my 6B pencil to create the shadow underneath the apple, just using small lines going back and forth towards the right of the page. Apologies, I'm left-handed, you're not going to be able to see what I'm doing now, but it's exactly the same. And that's the final outcome. Can't wait to see how you get on.